Good morning, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Backbone Podcast, where common sense still makes sense in a world that is sick and only getting sicker. And today we have a interesting but sad story about this mayor in Chicago. His name is Brandon Johnson, it looks like. He had some crazy comments at a church this weekend. I'm going to let you hear it for yourself. I'm sure you have. And we're going to get into what this guy must have been thinking, what people from a certain continent, how they think. And is this good for the country? I mean, are we do we create a monster here? You know, you think back to the civil rights era, 1964, with all these crazy laws that were passed. You know, yeah, in theory, you know, when you treat everyone equally, it's a good thing. But what happens when they get out of control? You know, this is now we're looking at madness over here, and people are talking about black fatigue and Jewish fatigue and feminist fatigue and all this fatigue stuff. Well, when people get tired of something, especially people who are nagging and bickering and always bitching and moaning, sooner or later there's pushback, push quality pushback, like in voting and changing things for the better, of course. But sometimes there could be bad pushback. And we've seen that throughout history, especially when white guys kind of go crazy and, it takes other white guys to calm them down. But let's look at this. Let's look what this nut job has to say. Mayor Johnson, right? Mayor Johnson from the great city of Chicago.
Will push back on me and say, the only thing that the mayor talks about is the hiring of black people. No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else.
Sure.
We are the most generous people on the planet.
In a letter to the mayor's office, the DOJ says Johnson's comments highlighting the number of black officials in his administration prompted this investigation.
Business and Economic Neighborhood Development, the deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development is a black woman.
Of course.
Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief Operations Officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man.
Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon stating in the letter in part, if these kinds of hiring decisions are being made for top-level positions in your administration, then it begs the question whether such decisions are also being made for lower-level positions. Already reaction coming in from City Hall leaders.
Hearing what he said and seeing this investigation taking part, unfolding today, I think validates the concerns many people have throughout the city of Chicago that this isn't a mayor for everyone.
We just received a statement from the mayor's office in the past half hour saying in part, quote, Mayor Johnson is proud to have the most diverse administration in the history of our city.
Yes.
Our administration reflects the diversity and values of Chicago. Unfortunately, the current federal administration does not reflect either. Robin, Cheryl, we will be.
So, of course, old Donald has to take a shot there, but
can't get enough 2020 true crime. This podcast.
This stuff is just ridiculous. And this whole thing about hiring black women, I mean, you talk about going to the bottom of the totem pole for this stuff. When did all this happen? Like, how did this happen? Now, it's obvious from this guy's words. It's obvious that he was raised by his mama. This guy is bitched out like you can't. I mean, he has bitch written on his forehead. He has zero integrity. And he's terrified terrified of women, and he made these choices because somebody forced him to do this. I guarantee that he was given a list of names that he had to hire, and he, just like the little bitch that he is, he did it. Now listen, if this is how he keeps his position as mayor, I mean, the guy's got to do what a guy's got to do. I mean, we're going to talk about integrity later, but this guy has no balls at all. He put some of the top positions of a city that is in shambles, by the way, just like most cities that are run by black mayors. I mean, Chicago is the new chocolate city, and it is in shambles. They're having shootouts nightly now. It used to be on the weekends. Now it's every night, where they're having gangland violence, and drugs are being sold in the street. Prostitution is out of control. The city of Chicago is a disaster, and it's led by a guy who was dollars to donuts, raised by his mama, because he has hell. He is spreading her hell to an entire city. And what he said was interesting to me, because if it's good for the goose, then it must be good for the gander, right? I mean, if a Mexican person has a restaurant or some store, and they only hire Mexicans, there's your example. Hey, if Mayor Johnson can hire only blacks, I can hire only Mexicans. And if a Asian person only wants to hire Asian people for their business, that should be accepted too. Now, again, like there's that civil rights stuff that came out in the 1960s that says that you can't base hiring and firings on skin color and sexual orientation, all that other bullshit. But this guy is clearly violating that, because he's only hiring these people based on their skin color. And he's only hiring a few of these people based on their skin color and their gender. Because you can't tell me that in the entire city of Chicago, and I think Chicago is like the third or fourth largest city in America, that there isn't one white or Hispanic or Asian person that's more qualified for these jobs than the people that he put in there. And the way the city is being run demonstrates that these people are not qualified. So if you're a white guy, if you're a white person and you own a flower shop or a restaurant or whatever it is, hey, you got a free pass here. White people have been given a free pass. You don't have to hire blacks anymore. You can hire white men all you want. And if anybody says any different, you just say, hey, listen, I'm just following what His Honor in Chicago is doing. This is the get out of jail free card. It's and listen, the main question is, to me, and I always ask this because I'm from New York. I don't live there anymore, thank God. But we have a mayor, a black guy, Eric Adams. He's a disaster. And when I was growing up, we always thought that Mayor Dinkins, David Dinkins, who was one of the most incompetent individuals you'll ever see, we thought it couldn't get any worse than him. And of course, it did get worse with this guy de Blasio, and it's probably gotten even worse now with this guy Adams. New York is a hellhole. Well, a lot of people thought Chicago couldn't get any worse when they had that Beetlejuice mayor Lightfoot in there. She was a disaster. People say, well, it can't get any worse. Well, I think it has. And I think the whole question of, can it get worse? It can get worse from this guy, Johnson. Because who's voting these people in? The people that are voting them in are not the sharpest knives in the drawer. Plato believed that only the educated, only a certain group of people should be allowed to vote. And it was, if you ever read the Republic, he states that clearly there too. I'm starting to think Plato was right. You can't, I mean, it sounds terrible, but you just can't have anybody with the right to vote. It's too dangerous. It's too powerful of a weapon. And we're seeing this now. We're seeing that these crazy congresswomen, that black woman from Houston, Crockett or whatever, she's out of her mind. Can you imagine if we have a majority of people like that in these powerful positions? This country, but they're talking about this country falling in 100 years. It won't. It'll be accelerated to 10. I mean, this is it's absolute madness. And who's putting these people in are people of the same skin tone, because blacks only vote Democrat. So they're voting these people in, some liberal white people who are, the cancer of Western civilization, especially white women, and the uninformed. Now, black people tend to vote blue. They don't vote black. They vote blue. Their first allegiance will always be to the black candidate. I mean, 90% of black people, I think it was more than 90%, voted for Barack Obama twice. If 90% of white people voted for John McCain or who's the other guy that was Mitt Romney, we'd be considered the most racist country in the history of civilization. But when it comes to blacks doing this, it's considered normal. So that's who's voting these people in. And that's why when you see these dead bodies on the floor and they're 15-year-old black kids, do we sympathize? Because his mother probably voted in these crazy people that are in office right now. I mean, something has got to change. Something has got to change with the way these people operate, the way these voters operate. I don't think just anybody can become a candidate for mayor or governor or president or what have you. I really think there needs to be some standards here, and there needs to be definitely term limits here. And I really believe that there should be some sort of qualifying factor to vote, because now it's becoming too dangerous. It's becoming increasingly dangerous. Every city in America, nearly every city in America, is turning into a cesspool. And these cities are they're war zones. Homeless all over the place. Prostitution in broad daylight. I was looking at a video from Seattle. They had girls walking in the street in broad daylight selling themselves. This is Sodom and Gomorrah all over again. And it's just, hey, you get what you vote for. That's not good enough anymore. Because a lot of these people, especially white liberals, a lot of them can't afford to live in these cities anymore. They don't want to live in these cities anymore. So what do? They move out of California, New York, and New Jersey, and Illinois, and any one of these other liberal states, and they move into the well-run Republican or red states, Florida, Texas, Oklahoma. But they don't change their way of voting, their way of thinking. They vote Democrat again. They vote liberal again. They vote progressive again. They vote to destroy again. A friend of mine is telling me that this happened already in Colorado, and it's starting to spread into Nevada. This is a cancer, and I don't know how to fix it, really. I mean, the suggestions I'm making are not considered constitutional, but something has to be done. How much more of this can we take? How much more of this can we take? Now, the question I have is, when it comes to hiring, shouldn't I be able to hire who I want, right? And again, I worked in the restaurant business when I was a kid. Most of the waiters and bartenders and maitre d's and the owners were all of Italian extraction, and we got along great. It was the best time of my life over there in some of these places. The cooks, the chefs, they were mostly Italian guys, and we had a ball. Everybody made money, and there's always the problem. One guy, you argue over sections or tips or whatever. But at the end of the day, there was no drama. But if you integrate and you make your restaurant or your business diverse, you're looking for trouble, especially if you hire people from a certain continent, people from a certain tribe, people who swing a certain way in the bedroom, or just white women with purple hair. You're now walking on eggshells in your own business. So I believe you should be able to hire whoever you want based on their merit, number one. But number two, based on how comfortable you are with these people. And a lot of white people are just feeling a lot more comfortable with people who think the same way they think. Not exactly, we don't all think the same way, but who come from a same moral tier. And I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with that at all. Now, what do you think would have happened if a white mayor or governor had said this? There would probably be calls for him to be removed. Within 24 hours, the media would have destroyed him already. This happened a couple of days ago or yesterday. The media would have destroyed him already. He would have been all over the news. He probably would be forced to resign. Now, no white politician's ever going to say this because, again, politicians don't have any integrity, which we're going to talk about in the Mann memo. But it just goes to show the double standard. If you look in the world of media, which I was involved in my younger years, there are certain last names you hear that come from certain tribes, and you're like, how do these people get these jobs? Well, there's a bit of nepotism involved in media, a lot. And a certain group of people are prominent in that area, and they hire people who worship in temple and not in churches. Now, if they were producing a great product, I would say, okay, but media, TV, radio, movies, all of this stuff is all trash now. That's what happens. When you hire people just because their last name ends in a Steen or Lipschitz or whatever, you're not always going to get the best quality. And that's why movies in Europe, television in Europe, even in South America and Mexico, is beginning to now surpass America. I would have never have thought, and I'm getting off topic here. I would have never have thought when I was involved in television that Mexican and South American TV would ever surpass the United States in production value, in production quality. But they have. They have 100%. If you were to watch, and if you don't speak Spanish, I don't expect you to, but if you were to ever watch any sort of Spanish production that comes out of Mexico or South America, their live newscasts are incredible. Their telenovelas, tens of millions of people are watching these things. Whereas in the United States, the shows here are unwatchable. So yeah, so that's where the city of Chicago is, and that's where the city of Atlanta is, New York, LA, San Francisco, Gary, Indiana, Newark, all these cities, Boston, Baltimore, forget it. I drove through Baltimore a couple of weeks ago. You almost have to have a bulletproof car to go through there. I don't know how people do it. Philadelphia, another disastrous place. This whole state of Pennsylvania is a disaster. But you get what you vote for. And as Plato said, if you give everybody the right to vote, you're gonna be in for serious problems. And he was right then. Now people would say he was an elitist. You know what? I'd rather have smart elitists in there than this trash, because this guy is trash. And a lot of the other people that are, are in the city hall our mayor or in the mayor offices in these major cities, they're absolutely incompetent. And they're only in there because of one or two reasons. One, they're Democrat. The other one because of the color of their skin. And you can't convince me otherwise. And it always comes down to how people vote, how people think, if they think at all, and what kind of courage they have. And that's where the Mann Memo is going to come in today, because I brought up the word integrity a few times. And what we don't want to be as men, as white Christian heterosexual males, and that's very important to point that out, is we don't want to be social chameleons. It's very, very dangerous and very, very difficult for white men to speak their mind, because, of course, they'll be called by white women misogynistics and toxic masculine patriarchal men, or incels, and they'll be mocked. Sometimes you can almost lose your job for stuff like this, for speaking your mind. So it's very, very dangerous, and you have to be very courageous to do this. But in a way, we have to do this. And the first guys always through the wall get bloody. But let's talk about the concept that's crucial for anyone striving for a fulfilling, authentic life. And we're referring to a life of integrity. You know, in a world that often pulls us in a million different directions, the Stoics believe that true happiness and well-being come from living a life of integrity. What's integrity? Well, integrity is where our thoughts, our words, and our actions are in alignment. Right? You don't see that with politicians. You don't see that with celebrities. You don't see that with people in the sports world. The Stoics understood that when we're internally divided, we hold conflicting beliefs. This conflict can create or does create a sense of unease within us. And that's why these people lie. That's why these people are miserable. That's why these people are on drugs, alcohol. They have these crazy fetishes, because they're tearing themselves apart from within. And Epictetus put it very straightforward. The more I read about Epictetus, the more I think that this guy was probably one of the baddest asses in all of human history. You know, you talk about this Andrew. I'm getting off topic here. You talk about these Andrew Tate, Manosphere, Red Pill guys. None of these guys had the balls of Epictetus. They could debate him. Maybe he would have torn these guys a new asshole. But Epictetus put, and I quote, "These things don't go together. You must be a unified human being, either good or bad. You must diligently work either on your own reasoning or on things out of your control. Take great care with the inside and not what's outside." So basically, in other words, you can't have it both ways. You can't preach the virtues of honesty and integrity while engaging in, shady businesses and deals and gossiping about people behind their backs, lying, stealing. You're either going to be good, and I know the Bible says there is no such thing as a good person, but you're either going to be a virtuous person or you're going to be a bad person. You can't be a little bit of both. It can't happen. You're going to tear yourself apart. We're seeing this now with celebrities. We're seeing this with politicians, and we're seeing this with sports stars too. Right? They put this front on where they're this wholesome, nice looking, you know, goody two shoes, and then we find out that they got 1,000 bottles of baby oil hidden in their basement. You can't claim to have value and inner peace while constantly chasing external validation. You can't advocate for self-control while indulging in every impulse and temptation. This is what these people do. We're starting to find that out now. This P. Diddy stuff is it's crazy. It's crazy what one guy is capable of doing when he doesn't have any integrity within him. We all wear masks to adapt to our behavior. to fit into different social situations, or to please different people. But when the masks become a permanent fixture, we lose our true selves. This creates a sense of fragmentation and inauthenticity, aka celebrities, politicians, and your basic poser. What we're doing is when we leave these masks on, is we're living a lie. And it takes a toll on our mental and emotional state. Inconsistencies create a sense of internal conflict. This internal conflict erodes our self-trust, making it hard to live a life of integrity. And in the pursuit of coherence, the Stoics believe that the key to a fulfilling life is to cultivate inner coherence. Here, our thoughts, words, actions, they're all in alignment with our values. You're being the same person in private that you are in public. There's no two faces. We're not Janice here. You're living a life that's true to our own moral compass. This doesn't mean that you're never going to make mistakes, right? We're never talking about being perfect. We don't talk about being, a rock all the time. It's about aiming for consistency and recognizing inconsistencies when they arise and then correcting them. It's okay to fall once in a while as long as you get back up and try to fix the inconsistencies or the errors in judgment. It's about being honest with yourself, being honest with others, and living a life that's authentic. People will admire you. And the ones that are false, they'll stay away from you because you are virtue repellent for them. What we don't want to be is a social chameleon. The person that changes their personality and opinions just to fit in when they're in public. The guy too weak to reveal their true self, too weak to stand up for their own beliefs. The person that talks a big game, but their actions don't match their words. Every single one of us knows a person like that, or people like that, or a group of people like that. We see them on TV every day. The Stoics challenge us to be the same person on the inside as we are on the outside. They urge us to examine our own inconsistencies and contradictions, and to make a conscious effort to align our values and principles. So what's the challenge that they have for us today? Well, when you look in the mirror to the one guy that you can't bullshit, ask yourself, am I living in alignment with my values? Are we being true to ourselves? Are there any areas where we're feeling divided or contradictory? By taking this first step towards integrity, by acknowledging any inconsistencies, we can change and fix it. Now, this is not easy. Evolving isn't easy. That's why only a small amount of men can do it or try to do it and are successful in doing it. But it's the path to a more authentic, fulfilling, evolved life. And that's the memo. Hope that helps. All right. So again, we're gonna be looking in on some of this Diddy stuff. I don't want to get too caught up in it because it depresses me on how it doesn't depress me. Right? That's the wrong word. It makes me want to puke sometimes hearing some of the crap that these people do, and that the many people that I know gave money to see these guys perform. But maybe we'll do something on that. Maybe we'll do something on dare I say, the WNBA. We have this Caitlin Clark. She's literally, some of these white players in the WNBA are being tackled by the black players, and they're being abused. And there's calls to that something needs to happen with this. But I'll look into it for content tomorrow. But as we go for tonight, thank you again for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And be careful out there, gentlemen. My friends, Satan is always busy, and he is working overtime. Be a man. Have a backbone, unlike the mayor of Chicago and many of the other politicians, because masculinity and common sense are worth standing up for. We'll see you later.